In early July 2001, a group of volunteers gathered at the top of the Crown Plaza Hotel in Pittsfield. Their assignment: go out into the community, armed with video cameras, and come back with stories that reflect a part of what Pittsfield means to them. Here are their stories.
Louise Palmer from New Ashford, Mass., and I'm going to go up in a plane and video Pittsfield for you. Pittsfield's a cool place to come visit, and there's a lot of things to do.
I'm Stuart Dalheim, president of the Berkshire County Historical Society. I live in Lee, Massachusetts. I'll be making a few statements about what the Historical Society does and what you can do when you go to visit Arrowhead. The Historical Society's primary function is to collect, preserve, and interpret county history for Berkshire County, and secondarily, but not least, to preserve and show Arrowhead, the sometime home of Herman Melville. He lived there in 1850 to 1863. We encourage people to visit Arrowhead. It's an interesting place to see, and we need the support.
The Melvilles had Herman's family had been fairly well-to-do in the early days, although his father had been a rather poor businessman and lost the family fortune. And his father died shortly after that. They started in New York City. He'd moved to Albany around 1830 when Herman was just a young boy. And the furnishings reflect that in that there are some nice older items they owned. They were able to hold on to some of the nicer things, but they weren't the most current fashionable items that you could acquire at the time. Kind of a genteel poverty is the way they probably lived. These are some original Melville objects here in this case. First edition of The Piazza Tales, which was a collection of short stories Melville wrote, was published in the 1850s. The Piazza, the lead story, was based on the piazza or porch here, which he had built on this house when he bought it. First edition of Moby Dick. Putnam's Monthly Magazine with I and My Chimney, the short story that was set in this house and so forth. A little coin in a miser purse, which was found up in the attic under the floorboards, and the coin was minted in 1850 and in circulation for 10 or 12 years, so we know it came from the Melville's time here, but we don't really know how it got there or what the story is behind it. This room is why this is a national landmark. This is Herman Melville's study. It was here sitting at a large table with books and papers spread all around him, where he could look out to the view to Mount Greylock, which he loved so much. He wrote Moby Dick here in 1850-51. He wrote 3 other novels, 16 short stories, and what many people don't realize, he started writing poetry during his latter years here too. And I think you do get a very good feel for the way he worked. He was very disappointed that his writings did not sell well. Moby Dick, now regarded as one of the great classics of American literature, was not particularly well received or popular in his day, and his other works did not sell very well either, those written after Moby Dick. They moved back to New York City, where he had been born and spent the first 10 or 11 years of his life. He worked in the customs house there for about 20 years and died in 1891 in relative obscurity. It wasn't until the 1920s, with several biographies, that the academics discovered Moby Dick and the great works of Melville, that he started to become popular, and now he's really especially Moby Dick is a cultural icon. You find references to it all the time. Movies, comic books, cartoons, and so on have been made out of it. And it all started right here in this room in Pittsfield, looking out to Mount Greylock.
My name is Brian Bissell. I'm from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and my project was to tape Park Square, Pittsfield, the center of my town, which I am familiar with, having driven through it thousands of times in my life, but I had never really stopped and found out much about the buildings and some of the history, and it was fascinating. For instance, it literally was a square back in history. Now it's an ellipse. As you drive around it, everybody knows that it's an oval. It's not a square. But earlier they had put a fence around it to protect an elm tree. And there's a story that goes with the elm tree. The location where Park Square is today was the site of an ancient elm. And looking back in some of the clippings from the historical room at the museum, this elm tree had to be protected by a fence because people were parking their horses there, driving spikes into it. The horses were eating the bark of the tree, and it dates back to the 1500s. A real interesting story was Lucretia Williams, a resident of Pittsfield, protected the tree from being felled by axemen. It became a very celebrated story because one of the churches wanted to expand and they wanted to cut the tree. And she said, no, you can't. We have to save it. She and her husband in 1790 bought the land, donated the land for Park Square to the city, and that was the origin of the space. Today, on the site of that tree, there's a sundial donated by the Daughters of the American Revolution to mark the spot where the actual tree was. They would see a fountain in the center. There are plaques all around, some of them to the Williamses, who donated the land.
That's why this is
Several war monuments, one to Vietnam veterans. One is a Civil War soldier facing west, a very dramatic statue that is dedicated to everyone in Pittsfield who has served in wars throughout history. It's kind of a generic statue. It's not just to the Civil War, it's to Pittsfield residents who have served their country. There's a plaque also to the site of the first agricultural fair. That happened under the elm at Park Square. Oh, the buildings. One of the buildings, the First Congregational Church, which is the gray stone structure right next to the popcorn wagon, between that and the old town hall. That has a Tiffany window facing Park Square, which I wasn't aware of either. It has been recently restored. Because it faces south, it faces the square, it gets lots of light, so from the inside, it's very dramatic and a wonderful piece. Tiffany glass facing Park Square, I had no idea. It's always been a hub of traffic. It literally is the center of the town. And originally it was a fork in the road, just a cart path. But today, we're circling around at lightning speed, it seems, the site of what used to be an elm tree.
My name is Sandra Herkowitz. I live in Pittsfield, and I shot Canoe Meadows in Pittsfield.
What is Canoe Meadows?
It's an Audubon preserve. It's 262 acres of just unspoiled land. There's ponds there, and there's woods, and it's the home of a lot of different creatures. It's off Holmes Road in Pittsfield, so you just go up Williams, and then you take a right onto Holmes Road as if you're going towards Lenox. So it's very easily accessible. I'm the type of person that loves nature, and I don't name anything. I don't really know the names of hardly anything. I have friends that'll name everything when I go walking with them, but no, you don't have to be like that at all. There are birds there, but for me, there's trails through the woods, there's also trails through the open meadows, and it's just the most relaxing place that I have ever been in my life. It just brings you right down to yourself. You could go there during a lunch hour, and just all the stress that you ever have will just drop away if you, in the silence and in just listening to the sounds there, because there's just a lot of it's like a whole town of creatures, and you can hear it. Even though you might not see all of it, you'll see birds, you'll hear chirping, you'll hear frogs when you go to the ponds. You might not see them. There's lily pads. You'll see, you might see a turtle once in a while. When I go there, I feel like that's when I really become connected to who I am. I might not really feel it the same way anywhere else in the world. It's just you become part of nature there, and we are creatures of nature. We're civilized creatures, but we're also natural. And when I go there, I feel my heart slow down. Everything slows way down. It's got to have a therapeutic effect, just physically. You can feel it. And I think it's more and more important because it slows your thinking way down. You really can come home to yourself. It's different. There's just something really different about it. I just don't think it gets any more tranquil anywhere else. It's very special.
Well, I'm Jim Brassard. I'm a Pittsfield City Councilor, and I'm also the coordinator of the Pittsfield 4th of July Parade.
Okay.
The parade actually started back in 1865 when a group of Union soldiers marched down North Street, and then on the 4th of July every year afterwards there was some kind of a minor parade on North Street. Soldiers, veterans returning home, just people getting out and doing an Easter-type stroll on the street. And so actually the parade did begin in 1865, but it wasn't until about 1946 when the firemen stepped in and they said, we need to have a real parade. And so for 30 years the fire department ran the 4th of July parade, and it was a fireman's muster type event. And then in 1976, the year of the bicentennial, they said this is it. In 1977 there was no parade, and North Street was the loneliest place you can imagine. And 1978, in February, on a cold winter night at the American Legion Hall, a group of about 15 people got together and said, this is it. We're going to have a 4th of July parade. It may not be the best, it may not be the biggest, but we're going to put one together. And we did. In just over 3.5 months, we put together about a 70-unit parade, and that was the start of what you see today. You take the marching bands, the fire departments, the banner carriers, you take the cheerleaders, the specialty units, the Shriners, add it all in, and you're looking at a total of 5,000 people who descend on the assembly area at 8 o'clock in the morning, and in 2 hours those people have to be in the right location, because at 9:45 When I say move the first unit out, it's got to be ready to roll at 10 o'clock when the jets fly overhead. There's something about working hard and seeing it all come together, coming to fruition, going down the street, and then when you walk down the street at the end of the parade, people stand there and they yell out, "Thank you." It means so much. It really does. It's a happening. It's the largest gathering of people in one spot in all of Berkshire County. It lasts for 2 hours. It's free if you're sitting on the parade route. And it's just fun. You become a kid. Enjoy yourself.
My name's Brian Seppa, and I'm from Pittsfield. I've lived there most of my life. And my project was Pontoozic Lake. I think it's one of the most beautiful and scenic lakes in the Pittsfield area. It's located 3 miles north of the center of Pittsfield, and it has 480 acres in size, and it's divided evenly between the towns of Pittsfield and Lanesboro. A couple weeks before I had heard about this, I had gone up there to check out the new walkway that they had made by the swimming area, and it's a really nice area, and I just thought it was a great place and a really scenic place. I've seen a lot of people sailing on the lake and fishing. Seems like a pretty big fishing spot. There's a marina there where you can rent sailboats, and there's also a public boat launch where you can launch your own boat. I usually go there to like see the sunset or to go for a boat ride. You can take a canoe out on the lake. That's a nice thing to do.
My name is Ray Smith. I'm with the Berkshire Visitors Bureau. I'm the Director of Marketing at the organization. And the tape you'll be seeing is of Hancock Shaker Village and Berkshire Museum, and it was shot by Golden Lamb Productions.
Tell me a little bit about the museum first. It's right almost in the heart of Pittsfield. You see it as you come into town.
Sure is. The museum actually went under a new construction here recently, new entranceway, which is very exciting for the city. It's the only museum of natural history in the Berkshires. What's interesting with the museum is they have an aquarium that's interactive for children, that they can put their hands in the tanks, play with a lot of the different snails, fish, turtles, and also they have a very neat room where there's a mummy and there's some Egyptian artifacts.
Big dinosaur out in front.
Absolutely is, yeah. That was one of the goals with the new the renovations and the landscaping out front, was to make it more inviting for the crowds, for children, for people to be able to sit out there and enjoy themselves, and also play with the dinosaur, I believe, too.
And another big attraction, which is just outside Pittsfield, but is considered part of Pittsfield, is Hancock Shaker Village. Everybody's heard about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Hancock is, as well as Berkshire Museum, they're both year-round attractions in the Berkshires. Hancock is basically celebrates the life of the Shakers. Have many restored buildings, barns, have livestock, vegetables grown and taken care of the way the Shakers did years back, and also in terms of the various artifacts, there's antiques. They have quite a collection and quite an archives of furniture, looms, things that the Shakers constructed and either worked on over the years. And it's quite a interesting tour to walk through the museum.
It's like a living museum, and you still see demonstrations. There are still people with a shaker background who are there doing demonstrations.
Yes, there are. And there's a part of the museum where you can actually put on the shaker garb, can see what it felt like to, I guess, dress as a shaker. And there's an area where you can, the children can actually interactively milk a cow and see how that feels. It's a fake cow, but nonetheless, it's still fun that the children get to experience that. You know, here's an opportunity to see the beautiful vistas of the Berkshires, and get a sense of two world-class museums nestled in the beautiful hills of the Berkshires. It has both of them interactive for children and for the parents, and they get a good sense of two walks of life, the Shakers and natural history, and be able to visit to an area that really, I think, warms the soul like no other, just seeing the views here and the nature in the Berkshires.
Hi, my name is Helen Wassel. I've been living here in Pittsfield for about a year and a half, originally from Hartford, Connecticut, and my project was the Pittsfield Cemetery. Having grown up in Hartford, one of the ways I found out about the history was going into the cemetery, looking at the stones, and then going to the Historical Society, reading about what I found, and I'm like, wow, there's some amazing stories. So when I came here to Pittsfield, I met a gentleman named Gary Crippa, and we were talking one day, and he happened to mention the Pittsfield Cemetery, and I said, oh, really? And he goes, you really need to check it out. So I walked through those bluestone, Great Barrington bluestone arches, and there's a treasure trove of amazing stories hidden in that cemetery. While I was there, I spoke with Superintendent Randy Johnson, and he told me about the design of the cemetery and how it was laid out.
The cemetery was founded in 1850, and it was designed by a gentleman, his name was Horatio Stone, from New York City. And he was a engineer, also he was a doctor, and he designed various different cemeteries throughout the New York area. And when the board of directors, which was founded to help purchase the Campbell Farm, decided to hire someone, they felt that this person would be very suitable to come in and create a garden cemetery. And that's what we are. We are a garden cemetery created in the Victorian style. As we moved along in our history, we had some wonderful structures that were built for the cemetery. I believe in 1885, we had the gray stone archway, which was constructed. This archway is of 3 pillars. It has bronze gates, which were put on a year later. And then in 1880, the same year, 1885, the Thomas Allen Monument was erected, which right now we still believe is the largest red polished granite, Missouri granite obelisk in the entire world.
One of the real cool stories that I like, and I always tell, is the reverend or pastor of the First Congregational Church here in Pittsfield was at the laying or driving of the Golden Spike in Promontory Point, Utah. And what happened was, how he got to do that was, he was asked by the president of the Central Pacific Railroad if he would do the invocation. And he said, you bet. And one of the funny things I found out was, while he was giving the invocation or the blessing, a train of prostitutes who were following the railroad workers pulled up behind him and were hanging out the window screaming and stuff, and he shot him one of those "if looks could kill" looks, and went on with the blessing. And at the end, the spike was taken out of the ground, made into gold rings, and Reverend Todd, or Pastor Todd, got one of the rings. When you walk through cemeteries, they're living history books, sort of, because in the olden days, when they first started doing burial grounds, they would carve literally the life story of the person on the stone, so you would know how old they were when they died, what they died of. They would put like an epitaph on there saying, you know, here lies the body of, whoever, they died, chucking corn in the field or whatever. So it would actually tell the story, and they would also include engraved symbols. For example, on a lot of early gravestones, you would see a willow tree, and that was the symbol of life. Or you would see angel wings and heads, and that would be the rise or the ascension to heaven. So it's a living history book, and all you have to do is kind of go and look and be curious, and you never know what you're going to find.
My name is George Morrell. I'm from Pittsfield. I lived here all my life, and my project was the senior center on North Street in Pittsfield. When a guy reaches a certain age, of course you can join that once you hit 60, you can join. When they get to be 60 and they figure they don't want to go to the center because then they're going to go with all the old people. But that's not the case. These people are alive. You'll see by the tape. Man, they got guys playing pool, jumping all over the place, guys playing cards and dandy. Well, I'll let the tape speak for it. You can see what the tape will say.
We come here every day to pass the time, and we argue politics.
Right, you're right.
We do. We argue politics. Yeah. These guys are here. Every one of them.
And 3, 4. I 21. I 2 1.
Well, as you know, I got gray hair. No, I don't belong to it yet, but I'm going to join it, and I know most of the people in there, and they were great. In fact, when you see on this film, you're going to see quite a few people that I know. I mean, we speak, they throw things at me and all that stuff. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good bunch.
What kind of feedback do you get from the residents there? Is it a nice place to live?
They love it. Some people go there. I just found this out myself from the director, Gene. Some people go there 6 o'clock in the morning. They go in there just to sit down, relax, take it easy. They're there all day. Some people go there, sit there for 4 or 5 hours just in the lobby there. And when you see the tape, you're going to see the people in there. It's a pretty big thing.
I noticed what was on.
Is it a fun place to go?
Fun place, absolutely, absolutely. And when I give up this whole business, I'm going to spend my time there.
My name is Marion Mabey. I've been the executive director of the Pittsfield Community Music School for the last 24 years, and so I'm here to talk about the Pittsfield Community Music School.
Well, what is the Pittsfield Community Music School?
It's a nonprofit school for people of all ages. We have kids as young as 18 months right through senior citizens who come to the school to take classes or private lessons in almost all the instruments. We've been around for 61 years. The school was founded in 1940, and we're right in the downtown of Pittsfield. The purpose was to offer to anyone who desires it, regardless of ability to pay, the opportunity to study music, and particularly to study an instrument or voice. And it was, I think, also designed to help the public schools in the area develop their music programs, to work with them and collaborate with them, and to give this kind of opportunity to anyone who might want to have it. And that remains the mission of the school now. For the toddlers, the 18-month group to 2 years, 9 months, we have preschool music introductory classes where they have musical games and learn to sing songs, and they actually are learning some of the basic skills of music that can be applied later if they decide to study an instrument. Same for preschoolers. We have a summer program called Music Discovery Week, which is designed to introduce instrument families to children as they progress, as they get a little older. And then they can also move into the Suzuki program, which is a big program at the school. We offer it for 3-year-olds through about 6 or 7-year-olds. And this is a nationally known, internationally known way of teaching music and certain instruments to very young children with their parents in attendance. It's an atmosphere as much as anything, where you go in that building and you hear music coming out of every room. And you have recitals with children on them, and some of those recitals of kids are just as inspiring as going to Tanglewood for a young student, starting out seeing your peers doing something that you might aspire to do. So I think that's actually the most special thing about the school, that it's this wonderful kind of nurturing atmosphere that is available for everybody.
I'm Isaac Crawford, and I live in Dalton on Kirshner Road, and I did a picture, a shoot of First Baptist Church on South Street in Pittsfield. Well, the church is in the so-called gateway to downtown Pittsfield. It's a historic entrance. The Colonial Theater, several churches, the museum, and other buildings, and so the Massachusetts Historical Commission has given grants to them to matching funds to fix up the outside of them. And First Baptist had a Restore the Splendor campaign a few years ago that fixed up the interior, so it's been quite modernized. The church was started, the congregation was created in 1772, 229 years ago, before 4 years before the United States became a republic. It has had some ups and downs. I mentioned one of them in the tape. The first few years, I think in the 1790s, the minister took most of the congregation and joined the Shakers. And then in the early 1800s, another minister from out west got most of the men to go out west and with him. And so the congregation had 3 men left.
What are some of the activities that are taking place today in the church?
Well, they have a very active youth group. Sunday school, they have children's classes, and they have the choir who loves to sing, a cantata choir, and sometimes we put on special music for holidays and so forth. And we have a youth choir and a children's choir, and they have a minister and an associate minister. Our associate minister is a woman who came there out of seminary to fill in as an interim. She's been there 6 years now, and now she's the associate minister. People come because they have friends or associates who invite them. But if they don't, they're out of town or they just move to the area, they come in and visit, and we are quite friendly. So we invite them to the coffee hour afterwards, and everybody goes over and says hello and tries to get them interested. And if they have any particular interest in joining the choir, we're happy to have them, especially basses, we're short.
My name is John Thurston. I live in Pittsfield.
I'm his daughter, Katie.
And what was your project for us?
Our project was Burbank Park on Lake Onoda in Pittsfield. Burbank Park is sitting on probably the most beautiful lake in Pittsfield, Lake Onoda, with the mountains in the background and the lake. There's all sorts of things to do. There's fishing and swimming.
Playground and the beach. It's just beautiful scenery, and the water's nice and warm usually. And, you know, it's just nice to sit on the beach and go play with all the kids on the playground and stuff like that.
It's our main destination in Pittsfield when we're sitting around and it's a beautiful day, especially in the summertime. We always go to Burbank Park. We have a 3-year-old who's just on the playground constantly, and we love to walk in the woods.
pack up your lunch or stop at a fast food place and grab a lunch and just go down there and sit at a picnic table, and you'll fall in love with it like we did.
I'm Sarah Galuli. I'm a youth specialist and the camp director at Girls Incorporated, and Girls Incorporated is here in Pittsfield. I am a native of Berkshire County from North Adams, grew up there, and now I live in Pittsfield. And our project is of our camp, Stevenson Widowetton, which is on Onoda Lake. Girls Incorporated is a youth organization. Our particular it's a national organization. There's 165 different affiliates throughout the country, and our particular organization is co-ed. We do serve boys as well as girls, and we serve at our center. We have a preschool, infant toddler preschool program up through age 14 that we serve in an after-school program pretty much. So we serve from 6 months up to like 14 years old at our center, and then we have our camp program in the summer.
I'm Susan Lampshire, and I'm happy to be able to talk about Girls Incorporated, one of the oldest agencies in Pittsfield. In 1911, on Bank Row, across from Court Square, the Girls Inc. started as the Girls League, and 37 girls walked in those doors the first time. Camp Stevenson Widowetton was started up in the 20s and remains our camp today. In 1945, Girls Inc. became the Girls Club of Pittsfield and was one of the charter affiliates in the nation. Then in the early 90s, the last name change, Girls Incorporated of the Berkshires, was done. And that reflected goals that we have to expand and help people throughout Berkshire County.
During the summer, pretty much our entire center turns into camp, except for the preschool program that stays the same. But all our kids go out to camp, and it's on 88 acres on Onoda Lake. It's like across the lake from the public beach side, and it's a pretty much traditional day camp. I think some of the unique things about our camp is that we have a disc golf course. It's a regulation course, and it's pretty neat, and that's pretty new to our camp. We have basketball court that was newly renovated. We have volleyball court. We have softball field. We have motorboats and canoes and rowboats and cabins, and there's about 10 different units with boys and girls this year, and we have about 120 campers on a daily basis.
So you said it's a day camp?
It's a day camp. They do sleepovers, but those are like special events, and they're only like once a week or something like that. We have campers on the first day who cry and don't want to leave their parents' side, and then by the end of the week that they're only scheduled to come for 1 week, and then they beg to come back. And then we have some campers who come back every year, who have been to camp, who have started in Unit 1 and have gone through all the units and are in Unit 5 this year, and who have been coming for the past 5 years or so. And we definitely have some campers who continue to come and end up being employees of Girls Inc. as well. They might start their Girls Inc. experience at camp during the summer, and then it turns into a job for them, or they turn into a leader in training or a counselor in training and move up in the ranks. I think it's important for youth to have positive experiences, especially girls, and Girls Inc.'s mission is to have girls be strong, smart, and bold, and have an equitable world to be strong, smart, and bold in. And we need to have positive role models, and they need to have positive experiences. And I think with my experiences, I've always had the need to work with kids, and this is the great place to do it. And I do a lot of different things during the school year, and then in camp I try to make their summer experience a fun and exciting one.
My name is Chet Gallup. I'm from here in Pittsfield, and my project was a Ash You Will to Cook river trail, which is used as a bike trail. It's Ash, A-S-H-U. It's Ash You Will, W-I-L-L-T-I-C-O-O-K, Ash You Will to Cook. And I believe it refers to the Hoosick River. Yes. Now, what's been done to date on the trail?
Well, so far, much to our very happiness, the trail has started at the Pittsfield line and is probably at 50% of completion right now. It's about 5 miles of recreation trail that really is a very, very easy trail to maneuver, but it's very inducive for the environment and for the atmosphere. The second phase, which is supposed to go out for bid this fall, is planned on starting construction early in the spring of next year. And that's another additional 5 miles of trail, which will start where the trail ends in Cheshire and end up on Hoosick Street in the town of Adams.
It's handicap accessible. They have comfort stations. They're going to have benches along the way and perhaps picnic tables. And it's in a jewel of a natural setting.
Why is it important to have this trail, you think?
It makes the beauty of the area accessible to so many people in ways that just weren't there before.
My name is Jeff Trisgola. I'm from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. My project was done on high school sports. High school sports has been a big thing in Pittsfield for a long time. It's taken a lot of people to a lot of places and done a lot. Your student athletes are just awesome. These kids don't get enough credit as it is today, and it keeps them out of trouble. It gives them something to do besides get in trouble. I've coached high school football. I've coached hockey. I've coached baseball. As a coach, you can dramatically change a kid's life from one aspect to another. I mean, you can either have him fall off or you can pick him up, you know? I mean, there's a lot of things you can do just by voicing your opinion to the kid. There's always a place for somebody. There always is. You can't, you gotta find a place as a coach, you know? You see little Joey sitting on the sideline doing nothing, it clicks in the back of your mind going, wait a minute, he's been everywhere, he's done everything. I got to get him sometime, you know. And a lot of these coaches in Pittsfield are very good about it. They're very good about giving the kids playing time. You know, either whether they're down or up on the scoreboard, give the kids some time on the field. It'll never happen. It'll just never happen. High school sports is too big of a activity to take away from these kids. You're talking Taconic High School with 70 kids on their football team. Pittsfield High School with rostering 60-something kids on their football team. And the soccer, the fall sports that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's a lot of kids, a lot of people to take things away from, you know. And again, I don't see them punishing the kids for taking that away. You know, you can't do that. It'll never happen.
My name is Rosalind Gordon. I'm the founder of North Street Arts Collaborative. North Street Arts Collaborative is a not-for-profit organization which has a mission of trying to promote rejuvenation on North Street, to change the face of North Street. We offer a range of services for a wide population. We offer services for people who want to study art. We offer classes. We offer workshops for people who are committed to art and who want to advance their work. We offer services to young mothers, mothers of toddlers, to come with their, well, if not young mothers only, I must say some are caretakers and foster parents, the caretakers of young children, to come and play with children with using art materials and learning by modeling their behavior after the instructors who are experts in child development, especially creative development. So we take on the whole community, from the elderly to the very young. The North Street Arts Collaborative is a not-for-profit organization run by volunteers. Nobody is paid. Volunteers who have a vision of helping to change the face of North Street by introducing or helping to create an art cultural hub. We chose this location because we're close to the Berkshire Museum. Berkshire Artisans is around the corner. Arlo Guthrie's building is across the street, and NSAC is here. We are interested in collaborating with other agencies in the Pittsfield area to help and not duplicate other services. The population is too small to have duplication. It is far better that we collaborate. For example, we collaborate with Berkshire Community College. We run classes. They could benefit from having a presence on North Street, and we can benefit from their arm of communication. They have a brochure that they include us in. Although NSAC is struggling financially, we have always and will always make scholarships available. Our purpose is to service the entire community, people who would not otherwise take classes here because of price. We want to make sure that they come. Every human being has a creative center, and it's using that center that can enrich life. I consider myself a very fortunate woman to face old age with making art as my continuum in my life. I look at many people who have not the excitement about life that I do, and I feel very fortunate. And I want to spread that. I want to pay back.
Local presentation of our Hometown Pittsfield is made possible by membership support and by Berkshire Bank, your financial partner for life, offering a tradition of comprehensive products and personalized customer service for you or your business, including banking, trust, insurance, and investment services. In person at 11 offices throughout Berkshire County or online at berkshirebank.com.